And before the performance starts, we have invited the experts of folk culture here. The experts now will tell us more about the arts of the dragon performance and the origins of the dragon dance. And also, we will show you how dragons are actually constructed. This is Mr. Zhou Heying from the local museum. Nice to meet you. So here in Chongqing, would you please tell us when the history of the dragon dance began and how has it evolved over the years? The dragon dance performance at least 500 or 600 years. As early as Ming Dynasty, people would attend the dragon temples praying for rain. And in Yuan Dynasty, from the 7th and the 8th of the lunar month to the 15th of the lunar month, local people would perform folk performances praying for good luck and rain. I can imagine how beautiful the performances must have been in the past. Yes. Dragon dance celebrations in Chongqing in ancient literature. That is why Chongqing is known as the hometown of the traditional dragon performance. Chongqing as a city applied for the state-level cultural heritage for the dragon performance tradition, and we were granted as the heritage city for the dragon dance art. And you can see people are making dragons right now. Would you please tell us more about how dragons are actually made? Because people are very curious about it. That also has history of over hundreds of years. The dragons from Chongqing have very distinctive features. How? For one, it has a very unique style. So compared to dragons in dragon performances elsewhere, it is quite a combination of tigers, lions, and dragons. That means must look very intimidating. And the tiger feature should be a crying tiger. And that is one of the features of the Chongqing dragon head. And the head itself is very similar to the head of a lion. That is why the face tends to be more broad. In other places, the dragon faces are narrower, more similar to serpents and snakes. And also you see the mouth is wide open. But in many other places in China, the mouths are often closed. An opening mouth is usually more intimidating, and you can see the teeth are also quite different, as if the dragon is ready to devour. But our dragon looks very cute and friendly. Instead of looking scary, it looks as if the dragon were smiling and laughing. Would you please tell us more about the art craft of dragon making? This is a traditional art. Everything is hand painted. I would like to come to this side so I have a closer look. Yes, indeed, everything is painted by hands. This is already the very last step of dragon making. First, rings were made out of bamboos, and then the rings were joined at different sections. And a rich fabric. Patterns then were painted on the rich fabric. Scales were added to the fabric later on. And the very last few steps are what you're looking at right now, the painting of the patterns. And you can see all the artists are very careful with the painting. Yeah, these are scales, but the scales of different dragons differ from one another. Is that right? It looks as if a flower that is about to bloom. There are regional differences in China, but by and large, the scales of dragons are similar. And the Tongliang dragon is also different for its cylindrical body, which is very similar to serpent. And it feels very muscular. And when the dragon moves, it looks as if a real dragon coming to life. And you could feel the muscle of the snake-like dragon. Very vivid and lifelike. Exactly, as if the dragon is alive. We know dragon is a legendary animal. It's a totem. But when we bring it to life, it will look very much alive. And also, please pay attention to the colors. Red, yellow, and blue are the main colors used, which are all auspicious colors in Chinese culture. So the dragon dance itself is supposed to bring good luck to the people. And that is why we chose these colors. Dragon dances are not exclusive to Tongliang in Chongqing. Other places also have dragon performances, but I was told that you could tell immediately whether the dragon is from Tongliang or not. I would like to know how you managed to tell Tongliang dragons apart. I would like to summarize then, because I just talked about several features. Well, the dragon head is very distinctive. This is a very typical Tongliang dragon head, and as I mentioned, the head is similar to the head of a lion. That is why the face is broader, but also a bit more friendlier. And also the teeth are very detailed, as well as the whiskers of the dragon. Those are all the typical features of dragons from Tongliang. The dragons from Tongliang are very serious, but also approachable. The body of the dragon seems to be muscular, and also feature red, yellow, and blue the most, representing auspicion and good luck. And that's how we tell the Tongliang dragons apart from other dragons. Alright, let's move on to the main stage of the performance. I heard that right now Tongliang is hosting a Dragon Lantern Festival, and I would like the camera to show the Lantern Festival in Tongliang. As far as I know, you are born and raised here in Tongliang. Could you tell us more about the Lantern Festival? Any highlights you would like to tell our audience? Well, Dragon Lantern Festival actually originates from the Lantern Festival. It has centuries of history. Well, this year, the highlight would be the scale of the event. And I actually just talked to some other people who are born and raised here, especially people who have already retired. And they told me this is the biggest Dragon Lantern Festival they have ever seen here. The festival is being held at the garden, also the ancient city in Tongliang. Over 200 lanterns have been made. We actually invested over 10 million RMB for the festival. It is a very spectacular event. And later you would see the beautiful light poles that we mounted for this festival. But this is not the main stage of the Lantern Festival, but for the Dragon Dance performance. And this is love? Yeah. How did you come about with this idea? This is a very famous site in Tongliang, which is known as the Ocean of Flowers, where flowers are displayed. Flowers often are symbols of romance. That is why this is also a popular place where people come for photography. And that is why we have the letter love. And the new Chinese year will be the year of pigs. And that's why we have a mascot, a pig mascot. And the colors change. And you can see the colors are changing all the time. And perhaps whatever color that you touch are going to be your lucky color next year. But all the colors are auspicious colors. For example, red, purple, blue, yellow. They are all very lucky colors in Chinese culture. Let's keep moving. As we see a lot of different lantern light sets. Well, the light sets feature different types of flowers, vegetables, and crops. Some of them feature romance and some historical figures. And you could see also lotus flower lanterns in the river, which merges perfectly into the ambient environment. And I see a lot of dragon-themed lanterns as well. And what can you tell us about the dragon lanterns? Well, different dragons mean different things. The Dachi dragon is a protector of the harvest. It is the dragon of all dragons, so you could call that a dragon king. It's not that long, but when it is brought to life by the performers, the dance itself is very complicated and very interesting to watch. And this dragon represents the new generation, as if it's the crowned prince in the kingdom of dragons. And in summertime, when the weather is dry for a long time, we would pray for rain with dragon performances. And local children usually make bamboo dragons in the days leading to the Chinese New Year, as part of the local culture. Now we're at the main stage for the dragon dance performance. And you can see people are already waiting for the performance. We usually limit the number of attendees to the performance. There is a cap to how many people can attend. As a Chongqing citizen, how do you feel every time when the dragon dance performance is held? Well, Spring Festival is approaching. A new year is coming, and we are celebrating the success of the past year. It is a time for us to take stock of the past and welcome the future. I heard that the dragon dance performance is not only famous in Chongqing, but also across the world. And I also heard that you led the dragon dance troupe from Chongqing to perform in places across the world. Could you tell us more about the performances? We went to Australia, Turkey, Kuwait, France, the United States. I still remember vividly when we arrived in Australia, the local Chinese people and people from other countries were very curious about the dragon. The Chinese people certainly felt very familiar with the dragon. The non-Chinese Australians felt very intrigued by the dragon. And children came to touch the dragon, even kiss the dragon. They weren't scared of the dragon. They were a little bit scared, but they also couldn't resist the temptation of touching the dragon. And lots of adults also. They just actually asked whether they could learn how to perform the dragon, and they asked our performers to step aside so they could step in and move the dragon to the drums. What is your favorite part about Tongliang Dragon? The size and the presence, as well as the whole spectacle of the performance. Our dragons are large in size. And this is the performance you're going to see momentarily. And also, there is a fire dragon performance, which is the most exciting dragon performance of them all. How so? Well, because it's an art of fire. The fire performance will be in a shower of splashes made of molten iron. And you never see any other performances of this kind. When did the fire dragon performance start? There isn't really a written record. But if you look at the history of Tongliang, it should have started the same time as the dragon performance. It is a byproduct of the goldsmith, ironsmith industry. So when the blacksmiths were working in their workshops, they loved the beauty of the splashes their hammers produced, so they wanted to have a performance where those splashes could actually be an attraction. And that's how the most beautiful dragon performance was created. It has a history of hundreds of years, like you said. Have you tried to innovate or add new features? We've been doing that over the years. That's why dragons from Tongliang are so popular across the world. Dragon performances are everywhere in China, but we were one of the only dragon performances that were brought to Tiananmen Square. Dragon performances in other places in China are simply a part of the folk culture, which are performed during festive occasions. But in Tongliang, we have hundreds of motions and dance moves. They are telling stories of local people, and the dragons look extremely real, as if the dragons were playing and dancing along with the people. And you could feel how the dragons are combating against demons so that local people could be benefited with good luck, so that the dragons could bring the auspicious rain to the local people. How many artists are actually working on dragon making? Well, there are two jobs. One, dragon dance performers, and second, dragon making and handcraft. These two have formed two industrial sectors. There are tens of thousands of people who could perform the dragon dance, and we have dedicated schools to train dragon dance performers. And we have professional dragon dance performers also who participate in commercial dragon dances in China. There are more than 2,000 professional dragon dancers who perform over 1,000 performances a year. So on a daily basis, there are several professional performers working on average. So it is a really big industry now. There are directors, performers, coaches, and there are people who train the others to perform the dragon dance. And also the dragon making handcraft industry. There are about over 100 people who are proficient at the dragon making handicraft. And now we have 4 bases to train dragon making techniques. Over 200 people have signed up for the training, and their training will start this year. A village in Tuqiao and Pinlin Cun and a community in Anqi village are the 4 bases that I mentioned. And in total, 500 to 600 people are learning how to make dragons. The essence of a dragon dance is the performers. We're very lucky today. We have invited a 78-year-old dragoness performer, Mr. Huang, with us. It's hard to believe he's already 78 years old. I heard that you started to perform dragon dance as early as age 12 and 13. So what were dragons like when you were a child? Well, I grew up in Nanju. The traditions where the dragon went on the street. Back at that time, during that time we had the fire dragon, the large dragon, as well as other types of dragons. And as children, we loved watching the dragoness performances. And those dragon dances were conducted by communities. Back then, the communities were the residence committees. So the committees organized these performances and celebrations. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you are the witness of how the dragon dances have evolved over the years. So how were the dances different back in those times? Well, back then, those were just street performances. The dragons moved from street to street. There was usually a main street, which was the main route for the dragon to move from. And at that time, there were so many people performing the dragon dance, and the dance was long. And we would just be watching the performers moving the dragon from left to right, and the dragons were covered by thick paper. And there were lights and lamps inside the dragons, and those lamps were actually clipped onto the reins inside the paper dragons. And always there was somebody who was in charge of the maintenance of the lamps, and if anything went wrong, the maintenance person would ask the whole parade to stop so that he would replace the lamps inside the dragons. And the intervals of different sections of the dragon were fixed, so it was easier for the maintenance. And also back in ancient times, especially the tail section was very interesting. There were very cute patterns, and sometimes they would put a long tail, which were braided. At that time, the dance moves were simpler. Well, the first time that you performed outside Tongliang, when was that? Well, in 1988, Beijing hosted International Tourism Year. There was a dance performance competition held. We attended the 35th Chinese Dragon Dance competition, so they knew that Tongliang has a professional dragon dance team, so we were invited. And back in 1986, I already had an idea as to how to improve the dragon dance. I was thinking one night, which was if we increase the number of performers, perhaps it will look even better. And I see over there are 2 dragons. And you see, if it's 1 pearl and 1 dragon, then the dragon would be protecting the pearl. And if it's 1 pearl and 2 dragons, would be 2 dragons playing around with 1 pearl. This is one of the mainstays of the dragon dance performance. Yes, at this time, you could see the 2 dragons are competing. As if the 2 dragons are chasing one another. And the pearl represents the beauty that the 2 dragons are after. And both dragons want to take the pearl. So as if the pearl is teasing the 2 dragons, and the 2 dragons are teasing the pearl. The intervals between different sections are very important. They must be maintained at all times during the performance. And so the movement looks very angelous and sinuous. There are stories in the dances. It's actually a drama that the dance tries to present. That is why the movements are very significant. The serpentine body has to move in a very undulating manner. And that is the function of the pearl. And around the pearl, the bodies of the dragon can turn and twist. I was told there are 5 performances in total. There's 4 dragon performances and 1 fire dragon performance. Which one do you look forward to the most? Well, the first one is the large dragon dance. The large dragon dance represents the highest level of the performance. The scale is the largest. It is the most spectacular performance of them all. And also the last performance would be the one that will linger on people's memory forever, the fire dragon. So we want to first shock the audience and spectators with the most sensational impression possible with the first performance and end with another. And these performers are very industrious. They actually perform barefoot. And that represents the spirit of perseverance and hard working. They march on against all difficulties and obstacles. It's full of positive energy, indeed. It is actually not fun for the performers. It's only fun for the spectators. And this is background story of the dragon performance. Also, they will interact with the audience, and this ritual is the invitation of the gods. Could you give us a spoiler as to the highlight of this performance? The most challenging part of the performance? They are inviting the deities and the gods by holding up the ox heads in their hands. They have all received special trainings before. It is a traditional art that is taught in schools today. And different schools teach different parts of the performance. And we attach great importance to the preservation of the intangible cultural heritage. And most of the performers tonight graduated from these training schools. So this art will never die. That was the concern for most of the traditional art, but it seems like it won't be a problem for the dragon dance in Chongqing. How many students have you taught? I can't even count. From kindergartens all the way to universities, you could find people that I have taught, and that is how the art is passed down from generation to generation. It is a great honor and pleasure to be able to pass on the legacy of the dragon dance. Are there any special meanings behind the movements of the dancers? And the large dragon will show up very soon. Because of the inertia, it will make it difficult for the performers after him to stop. So one performer could spoil the entire performance. Not really. We've never had that situation before. They are all well-trained performers. And if the dance movements are very complicated and challenging, it is possible that one or more performers makes mistakes, but when that happens, other performers will try to cover up the mistake immediately. So no major mistakes have happened in the past. And soon, we will see the lotus dragon. Dragon in the lotus field, which sounds very poetic. All the performers are supposed to be female. But because it is very physically challenging, so we actually in the end decided to have male performers instead of female ones. So this dragon is supposed to present the feminine beauty, which contrasts the previous performance. So as to the dragon making skills and dragon performance, in the past, did the ancient people teach girls these art, or was that exclusive to the male heirs of families? Or in the past, girls were not allowed in this business. Why? Well, because they believed it's too boyish and not very ladylike. And girls in the past were not very interested in dragon dance. And in Han Dynasty, they said only the beggars and the homeless people would get into this business. So, and also, it was not encouraged. It was not encouraged for the girls to work in ancient China or to show their faces in public. Wow, now, as if we're looking at boats in the river, floating up and down with the waves and the fish. In the past, it was always the beggars and homeless people who would get into this business. Look at the choreography. Did the dance absorb some features from the folk dances in South China? When we attended the competition in Beijing back in the 80s, we saw that the dragon from Zhejiang province was known as the Baiye dragon. And we absorbed some of the features we observed in their performance. So the Tongliang dragon dance has absorbed the elements from a lot of other dragon dance arts. Indeed, we keep learning and improving and absorbing new elements into our own culture. Lotus flowers. You see how they catch the lotus flowers, and when they connect the lotus flowers together, it will form a dragon. So it will be a dragon made by lotus flowers. And you can see the different layers of petals of lotus flowers. And it is made of different layers as well. When you connect the layers together, it will become a dragon. And later we'll take off the head of one of the two dragons and connect these two dragons into one. So later you're going to take off one head and one tail and connect them into one dragon. Why? Are there any special significance behind it? It's how the story evolves from no dragon to 2 dragons and then to 1 dragon. That's the beauty of the dragon dance. Dragons are legendary animals that could fly and swim. So that is to show the magical power of dragons. Now it's 1 dragon. And so here you can see they're joined into 1 dragon. Only 1 dragon had left. How long is the dragon? Approximately 60 meters. That's longer than the large dragon. Yes. There are a dozen of performers operating each dragon, and the dragons differ in sizes. The large dragons could have over 20 performers to 30 performers. This dragon is not very thick, but rather very long. But if it's too long, they would look more like a snake than a dragon. And I see all the performers are male operating it's only the male performers operating the dragon with the poles. As I said in the beginning, we planned to have only female performers for this dragon dance in particular, but it is very physically demanding, so we decided to have male performers instead. It is supposed to be female performers for all the posts, indeed. That would be the best, because they would look softer and more feminine. This performance is designed to showcase the beauty of female. So beauty is the keyword for this performance. The dragon hand is held up in the air. Thank you. And the third dragon performance, dragon competition. So I assume it will be very fierce. The movements will be very fast and complicated. It is actually the most difficult dragon performance. The movements and change all the time. It is also a competition. In 1994, it was added to the national competition. How many dragon competitions are held each year in China? And what is the most well-known one? Well, there is the International Dragon Dance Performance Competition and International Lion Dance Performance Competition. Most of the competitors are Chinese nationals and overseas Chinese. In the very beginning of the dragon competition performance, you would see the performers having a fixed ritual. This is the rule of the dragon competition dance. These dance moves in the very beginning are fixed. There are 5 dragons in total. Yes, one of the 5 is smaller than the other 4, and one is broader. There is one dragon that is the main dragon. The one in the middle is the most important dragon. I'm so worried. What if they accidentally step on the dragons? That won't happen. They have been trained very well. That is the basics. So compared to the previous 2 performances, I guess these dancers have received even more rigorous training, or longer training. Indeed. This performance is the most difficult of them all. And the performance itself is the most dynamic. To train a performer for the dragon competition dance, how long does it take? At least 1 year or 2 for them to be able to compete at major competitions. Because most of them only attend to the training on the weekend. Do you think the young people in Chongqing love dragon dance performance? Because many young people seem to be less interested in traditional arts today. But the training for the dragon dance seems to be very vigorous. How come the young people in about it? Do you think passion is the most important element here? Well, the government really values the dragon dance legacy. And also, once you get into the dragon dance business, you will fall in love with it. This is much. And we know that Chinese people are known as the descendants of dragon. And dragon represents the supreme power. And people could feel that when they perform the dragons. And I'm really curious to know, when you teach dragon dance directly or indirectly, students got injured? Or when the students had other important business to attend to, they had to give up? Only in extreme cases would the backup step in. When we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the PRC with our dragon dance team in Beijing. During the performance, one of our performers lost his father. He received the telegraph about the news that his father had passed touched us all. And on our train back home, he started to cry after receiving the telegraph, and everyone in his team started to cry. And everyone in that car on the train started to weep with him. It was a very emotional moment. The reason that dance performance could have been preserved so well is that so many generations of Chongqing people have poured their hearts into it. One, the support and promotion of folk culture and traditional arts. And when young people learn in depth about this form of traditional art, first. We call that performing a dragon dance instead of playing with the dragon or playing dragon, because this is a technical performance. It's not just a casual play. Do they get paid? A little bit. Not very handsome pay. And sometimes they learn dragon dance during their PE lessons. So it's allowance for them. And even for us, the payment is not that high. So how and why to stay in this business for so long? Oh, because of our love and our deep understanding of the traditional art, as well as and the idea that we're a team. And we understand the significance of dragon dance to Tongliang, to Chongqing. It is a very beautiful folk art. Now, the society advances so rapidly. If we don't catch up with the preservation of traditional arts, it will be hard for it to be passed down to future generations. So you do have youth, because now there are more and more people receiving high education, people with bachelor's and master's degrees. So it's important for young people today to have skills to survive. And after this performance, we will finally embrace the most spectacular fire dragon performance. And actually, most people come for the fire dragon dance. I I was told that fire dragon actually is only performed at Laba Festival and big ceremonial events. Well, now you can see that anytime. Probably after Reforma opening up, it has become a very common performance. But for us, we only see dragon performance during Spring Festival. I never see dragon performances at other times. At invitation or big cultural occasions, we would perform dragon dance. But it's most common during the Chinese New Year or the Spring Festival. From the first day to the 15th day of the first lunar month of the Chinese New Year, we would have dragon performances almost every day. Very soon we will witness the dragon dancing throughout a shower of iron fire. And now you see furnaces and bonfires on the square. And they're Could you please tell us what they're doing? What are they preparing for? When they're burning the dragon, they're molten the iron. The iron has been burning for 50 minutes. So that's about the warming up time. Yes, we need to melt the iron, and the temperature should reach about 2,000 degrees Celsius. And then we hit the molten iron hard, so that splashes could be projected into the air. It sounds very exciting. I can't wait. Well, the temperature ranges from 800 degrees to 2,000 degrees from what I've heard. Well, it's actually around 2,000 degrees Celsius. There is a very specific technique involved in the melting of iron, because if it is not done properly, then the splashes could be very hot when it lands on people's skin. And if it lands on the clothes, would that burn? Are not wearing much clothes, because their clothes would be ruined. And you would soon see splashes of molten iron in the air. And also, if the sparks land on your clothes, it would definitely burn a hole. And this represents hopes for the next year. Well, some people accidentally wear their best clothes to this performance, and they go home with holes on the clothes. But that actually means good luck for the upcoming year, because they are burned by the splashes from the fire dragon. That is definitely auspicious. And for business people, it means next year they will earn a lot of money. Well, our dear audience, you should definitely come to Tongliang and have your clothes burnt by the fire dragon during the performance. You'll be very lucky in the upcoming year. So the dragon is still not out, but you see the performers holding up torches. That's some sort of ritual. After the torches are lit, people are welcoming the dragons now. And dragons now are hidden in the tunnel, observing the fire. This is people inviting the dragons to come out. It's Laba Festival today, the 8th day of the 12th month in the Chinese lunar calendar. How does the performance today differ from the Spring Festival Fire Dragon? Well, during the Spring Festival, the fire dragon would come out again, but the performances themselves won't be that much different. Very spectacular. It's fantastic. And very intriguing also. Now Fire Dragon is out. Wow. It's starting. Wow. Now you see the performer splashing molten air in the air, and you can see people wowing and screaming from the crowds. A shower of sparks. People were excited, but also at the same time a bit scared. You can see how they hit the molten iron hard. So the higher the better, and the wider spread the better. Yes. Power of the Fire Dragon. And then the splashes and sparks actually cooling the air. Do they sometimes get burnt? Very rarely so. And I was told that they covered their skin burnt by those sparks? Not really. Well, in the past, well, it's just important for them to wash themselves after the performance. No, it's important for themselves to wash themselves before the performances as well. They have a nice shower and then welcome the dragons. And also, if there were too much grease on the skin, it probably would be easier to catch fire. And they are very professional performers. They have been working in the business for many years. Indeed. Some of them have performed dragon dance for over 40 years, 40. Some of them are my students. Do you feel very proud watching how well they're performing? Well, we helped with the choreography of this performance. Choreography is important for bringing the sensation of the performance. Thank you, dear audience. What we're looking at right now is the Fire Dragon performance that would continue to the first month of the next lunar year. It is a feast of sparks and of splashes of molten air and auspicious luck. And the dances will continue to the 15th of January in the Chinese lunar calendar. And every day until January the 15th of the Chinese lunar calendar, you can see the performance here in Tongliang. If you want to have a different New Year celebration, you are welcome to pay a visit to Tongliang. You should come to Tongliang to appreciate the beautiful dragon dance.